Will your government bring in a poll tax to make council rates and taxes fair for everyone? Can we start with you, Roger?
We would be against a poll tax.
Thank you, Roger. John?
New Zealand First position is we haven't looked at poll taxes. However, we do want GST to come off rates because rates are a tax on a tax. So if we have GST on it, it's just not fair. So it's logical we take that off. And we also want to have a rates rebate on water because that's also is controlled by councils and it's fair on the lowest in society, lowest income society, pensioners and the like, that they can actually survive and use water. Same with electricity. We want to see some changes there too. And you can only get there by party voting New Zealand First because it's common sense.
The ACT Party has no policy to move to a poll tax for local council taxes. However, we do think that rates are getting out of control in Auckland, and something is needed to be done to restrain the spending of, Glenn Brown, really.
Thanks, Rodney.
Well, this debate centres around something quite nebulous called the Uniform Annual General Charge, which is what a council can bring in part of its rating. So if the Auckland Council had decided to go to $750, which is what they could have done as a uniform annual general charge, the rates of every one of you, if you live in Howick, Pakuranga, Bucklands Beach, would have been down dramatically because it would have been spread right across Auckland more. If the council chooses to have a very low uniform annual general charge, it means those of you who have higher value properties pay a lot more percentage of the overall rates. But it is not, again, a central government issue. Every council has got the right under the Local Government Act to set its rating policy and what its uniform annual general charge level should be. You should be taking it up with your councillors.
The Green Party does not have a policy to bring in a poll tax. What we're really concerned about is central government legislating things that local government has to do and then not enabling it with any funding. So there's a lot of stuff that's kicked down to the local government level and they have no other possible way of raising money other than rates and the uniform charge. So it's actually looking at that relationship between local government and central government that's really, really crucial, because otherwise, the rates will just keep going up because they keep pushing things down. You don't want to deal with the environment at the central government level. You do it, councils, but you pay for it. We don't want to build the city rail loop. You pay for it, but we'll build a motorway for you.
The Conservative Party doesn't have a position on poll tax, but we certainly do have a position on super city, which, as I've said, isn't so super. I know that you've all had your rates go up exponentially. We want to have a referendum for the people of Auckland to decide their future, how they want their city to be. And I'm pretty sure you probably don't like the big bureaucracy that we've got now.
No, here.
Yeah, Labour doesn't have a policy on poll tax. We do believe central government has a role to play in things like transport, though. That's why if we're elected, we'll fund straight away the city rail link, which should filter through to this area, improve the public transport in this area.
It'll double the trains.
To
here, we don't have trains.
the other side of the road.
It is.
Okay,
We're obviously concerned about, like everybody, about the rates going up. Again, with their policies to try and evenly distribute money, hopefully people are going to be able to afford to pay the rates. Also, we're concerned about power prices. Check out our policy on the power save, where we're going to have both reflective buying power, reduce the cost of power for everybody as well.
Here's another question for all parties, although it's specifically for all parties who support increasing wages. Who will pay the additional KiwiSaver contributions, ACC levy and other relevant employee costs? The government or the employer?
That's not a full question. Who will pay it with what?
Is it the government?
Who will pay it, the government or the employer?
But you haven't given me what the conditions for that is. When wages go up or what?
All parties who support increasing wages.
But we all support increasing wages. You mean legislatively by a minimum?
Legislatively increasing wages. Who will pay the additional costs? So could we start now with John?
Sure. Well, it's pretty simple actually. Keep it the status quo the way it works at the moment. It's working fine as it is. If the wages go up, sure, just keep it the same. The employer contributes some, and the employee contributes some into the different costs. So why break it when it's actually working fine at the moment?
Thank you.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Jamie?
Well, we don't want to put up the minimum wage.
Okay.
Okay.
But you might want to comment.
Okay.
Morris?
Okay, well, quick comment just so I get you on side. Since we came to office in 2008, the minimum wage was then $12. We have put it up every year since then. It's now $14.25. That's nearly a 20% increase in the minimum wage during that time. And that's something that will just continue if we stayed in government, a gradual, progressive, but not, well, I think it's gradual. I think the moment you start telling employers we've decided it's going to be whatever, $18.80, whatever, you've lost it.
Morris, the main point of the question is he's asking who must carry the cost.
Doesn't change. Whenever wages go up, the same ratio of who pays, the ACC levies, whoever pays the KiwiSaver, that's just the same no matter what. There's no change to that.
So it's carried by the employer.
Well, it's carried by both. There's a sharing. I mean,
Indeed, there is a sharing, and in fact, National's already announced that they're going to lower the ACC rates next year, because of course the financial crisis of ACC of a couple of years ago wasn't real. But the point is that employers are legislated what they have to match. The government is legislated what it has to match, and so a few of those things will move in lockstep, so that will be a cost to the employer. Other things will remain exactly where they are because they're fixed. So it's a mixed bag.
I would like to make a statement now.
James?
There's a common idea that when some of these contributions are made by employers, they're not a cost to the employee. That's not right. Economic analysis shows that any contribution employers are forced to make on behalf of employees simply comes off the employee's wages, they'd otherwise earn more. So the only real effect of these employer contributions is to give employees lower wages and therefore less say in how they use their money.
Thank you, Jamie.
No change to the minimum wage, no change to the way it's worked out.
Okay. Gary?
Yeah, nothing to add. As it works now, the proportions will change.
What are each party's positions on the TPP? If it's ratified, we'll lose control of New Zealand's sovereignty to corporates and big business. Jamie?
Sorry. Well, I'm not quite sure I understand. I've heard this argument. I'm not quite sure I understand it. If we enter a deal, a free trade agreement of any kind, it means that the government cannot impose tariffs and take certain measures that they otherwise would be free to do. So whenever a government enters into a treaty, it restricts itself. That's the very nature of treaties. That's the point of them. So I'm not sure why this particular proposed treaty is causing so much anxiety. We in ACT are very much in favour of free trade, so we support it in broad terms. I must say I do wish I knew a little bit more about it, but we're broadly supportive of it. One point I should note, it is odd to have, when you think about it, a free trade agreement. If you're going to have free trade, what's to agree? Just don't have tariffs and barriers. There you go, nothing to agree. So it should be a bit simpler, and the fact that it isn't too simple makes me suspicious. And I must say we're broadly supportive.
well, because it's my government negotiating, I'm exceedingly supportive of it. It's the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's to do with a free trade agreement of bringing about 14 more countries into the free trade umbrella. We're lucky, as one thing, to have a free trade agreement with China, and I thank the Labor government for negotiating that. They did it, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to us and our economy. Without it, we would have been in the doldrums during the global financial crisis. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership is just exactly as Jamie White says. It's just another free trade agreement where they're trying to bring Japan and the United States and some other countries in, where we're able to trade our goods, and I promise you, as an export trading nation, we are always better off if we can get a free trade agreement with another country. I'm very supportive of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The only thing that's fueling all the fear on this is it's being negotiated behind closed doors. It always has to be, but it will not come into force until it's passed through the Parliament and legislation, and by that stage, before it even goes to the Parliament, you'll know what the details of it was. I don't think we can negotiate it until it's sorted, and then it goes to the Parliament.
Thank you, Morris.
Green Party is opposed to the TPPA for actually many of the reasons that Jamie White just outlined. A free trade agreement could be 4 pages long. If it was just about tariffs, we'd actually be pretty comfortable with it. But the truth is it isn't. It isn't. It's going to give American legislators the right to sit at the table when New Zealand Parliament writes legislation that has to do with the environment or trade or healthcare. And that is unconscionable. Free trade we can deal with, but that's not free trade. That's actually American hegemony, and I say that as an American. That's not on. That is not on. And
free trade is not fair trade.
Exactly. And Monsanto's allowed to sit at the table, but we're not. Why is that?
The Conservative Party is very opposed. Two things. Fair trade has to be on a level playing field. It's no good having a fair trade agreement with China where they pay their workers a couple of cents a day and when they are ruining their environment. The other thing that needs to happen is it needs to be open and transparent. Don't want any deals done in secret.
So would you scrap the free trade agreement with China?
That's the one.
Would you? Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Switch it off.
Barry?
Yeah, Labor had some concerns. It's giving it sort of tentative support at this stage. Just like Morris said, it's been negotiated behind doors, so we would like to know more information. We've got some questions and things we want to get answered before we can have a final position on it. I want to see how it looks when it comes out. Our concerns are kind of a little bit in the area about labour laws, but also what does it mean for things like surveillance and all that? Are we going to sign up to give America certain rights over us in this area? So this is some of our concerns, and we're just going to wait and see what happens before we have our final position on that. Thank you.
Internet Mother is strongly opposed to TTPA for the same reasons that my good friend from the Green Party pointed out, and the same reasons which is inherent in the question. It would mean we'd be giving away our sovereignty, giving away our control, and things will be organised at the behest of the big boys overseas. We don't want it. Thank you.
Well, so New Zealand First is dead set against the TPPA. No, it's not a free trade agreement at all. And it's the fact of the matter. Look, if sir, you owned a company under the TPPA, you could be sued from some guys in America if it came under the TPPA. So this is not good for New Zealand. Look, Winston's a lawyer, right? Why not get him involved and let him have a read of what's going on? I think we all agree it's only common sense. It's only common sense we don't get into the TPPA because it's not going to be good for New Zealand. And that's why I urge you to party vote New Zealand First.
I think we have got time for one more question. Will your government be the first to recognise Scotland as a kingdom of...
Good one! Kingdom of
totally independent. Do we have any support
Okay,
for
I'm
the
first
Scots?
up. Scottish ancestry, all came from East Lothian and south of Scotland. Scotland the brave, love to see it independent because you know what they said today, if that happened, New Zealanders who had Scottish ancestry could get citizenship in Scotland, then we'd have European access, it would be brilliant, I'll take it.
If the people of Scotland vote yes, of course the Green Party, who will not be leading the next government, but we do hope to be part of the next government, will be voting in support of recognising Scotland, and we will immediately start negotiations for a genuine free trade agreement that particularly removes tariffs on single malt scotch. Party vote green. Cheaper scotch.
Party vote Scotland.
With a name like Andrew Ross Craig, you can tell where I come from. Go the Scots. And I think it's fantastic. They've gone to the people of Scotland. They're asking them what they want, and let's see what they choose, and that's perfect. They don't run with it. That's democracy.
That should have been 10 years ago.
Well, it'll have to be a yes from me too. I've got a little bit of Scottish ancestry as well. But Scottish ancestry. Later for that. But the question was asking if we're the government. Well, Internet Mana probably will not be the government on the 21st of September, but we do hope to be part of the new government. There's one thing we've got to do is change this government, and I think there's a big surge for change, and we hope to be working with the Greens and with the Labour Party with the new government. Our policies are all in the paper at the back. We're the only ones that put out a newspaper. This is issue number 3, and our policies are at the back as well. And I invite you all to read them and to and to vote internet mana for your party vote. Very important. Thank you.
That's a good thing.
Well, my middle name is actually Blakelock, which is rather Scottish. And I think Winston also has a lot of Scots in him as well.
Yes,
So these are the first names of Scotch and Scottish. And so yes, we would definitely say yes. It's welcome to New Zealand, and we'd definitely agree that it is its own independent state. I'm not sure about a free trade agreement with haggis though, because I don't think we need too much haggis here. But I'd like you to remember party vote New Zealand first, because we're the only one who's anti-immigration. But we will save the super gold card.
Well, I've probably got, my father was Scottish. My name's Jamie White with a Y, as in White and Mackay the whiskey. And of course we'd recognise Scotland if the Scottish chose to separate. But I must say that I would regret. I don't think it's easy to understand how intertwined those countries are. And trying to separate them will be a nightmare. And I think it will do a lot of harm, actually, to both countries. And so I'm rooting for the Unionists, but of course we'll accept the decision of the Scots.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, if you are lucky enough for you guys to vote for me to be your MP, I think I'm going to be inspired by Scotland if they do manage to get independence, separate. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to put in a private member's bowl to ask for South Island's independence from the rest of New Zealand. Inspire me to do that. I think they're holding us back a bit here in Auckland, so I think they can probably go for their independence.